we're here with C.J Egrie, formerly a Ventnor. He's a Ventnor kid, absolutely electric athlete. Ventnor kid, grew up on the island, went to Holy Spirit High School, transferred to Phillips Andover, headed over to Holy Cross. Baseball player, speed merchant, base stealer extraordinaire, unbelievable football player, probably one of the best defensive backs Holy Spirit's ever had. And that's not even his job. That's not even his thing. His thing is baseball. Comes from a great family with Lisa Egrie as she introduced you to the sport and everything. Like, she was a phenomenal softball player at Rutgers. And they had a baseball facility called Player's Edge. And the neat thing about Lisa was she was the only female to have her own facility in New Jersey. Very cool. I brought that up a couple of times on ESPN radio when I talked on there and stuff like that. And anyway, so and I've worked with CJ since he was a kid, right? So this is a real product of the system. Like, he's been through it. He's been through the grinder, and now this is the output. Always fast. Legitimate 4.47 in the 40-yard dash last year. One of the fastest in the 60 in the country. I think number two in the country in the 60. That doesn't mean anything on the base path. Had 102 hits, 105 steals. I could be slightly off, but every time he gets on base, he steals. We could do the math. We'll show you some of the stuff that we've done with him. We see him hitting to over 20 miles per hour over the course of 30 feet. So he's up fast as you can possibly be. He's broke our facility record by going 147 in the 10-yard dash, which is just outrageous within 10 yards. So just without further ado, this is C.J Egrie. I'm here with Josh Holsopple. He's our head coach at Klemic Performance Method, and just so excited. It's the first time we're doing this, so we're in the house with basically my favorite people right now.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to be here right now.
It's like we've been talking about this for so long. Why have we done this yet? And Josh and I, basically every conversation we have is what we're talking about right now. So basically we're just recording what we talk about nonstop anyway. But Josh has some great questions for you. I have some great questions for you, and the tension's on you right now. It's the questions that we're going to ask. I'm very interested in too. Like, I actually want to hear these answers. I think I know some of the answers, but I want to hear him say it. So fire away.
Yeah, so I think this will be great too, just to learn a little bit more about CJ, but also as an athlete, like, you can kind of see what CJ did and the things that he did, and then maybe apply some of that to you. Coach Dave and I talk about it all the time, how many great athletes are just a composite of many other great athletes. So when I was growing up, I'm looking at all these different receivers in the NFL, at different high schools, teammates, and I'm taking a little bit of game from all them. So I hope a lot of you guys can do that, with CJ. So firstly, as a kid, was there anything specifically that you think that you did that, might have helped you, whether that's playing different sports? And this is from elementary, middle, before high school. Is there anything specific that helped you become explosive and become a great athlete?
That's a great question. I think as a kid, I could never sit still. So one of the ways I would just be running around 24/7, whether it was on the concrete outside, on the beach. I was always a jumper too. Like, I would jump on the couch all the time. Like, it was nobody's business. So obviously this stuff that we do now never really occurred to me, but stuff like that, throwing me into sports like soccer where I'm running around all the time, hockey where I'm running around all the time, that type of stuff, without me knowing it and without obviously my mom knowing it, kind of created, me being a very athletic, twitchy little person.
Yeah.
A lot of people will say the beach is a thing that we have down here is a major advantage. Think about the geography, just based on geography, and the stuff that we have. Right before you get in the water, you have this sand pit, and there's it's such an unbelievable place to work out on. We have to create those in other places, and it's like the coolest thing when you have a sand pit. Geez, we live right here, and he lives right on the beach, So that's one of the. I'm glad you brought up the beach. Great question.
Definitely. I mean, do you want to touch on that too? I feel like a lot of other great athletes will have a similar answer to that, like how being involved in many different sports and getting many different stimuluses on the body, whether it's footwork in soccer or baseball hand-eye coordination, or football, being able to have agility at high speeds, learning agility at high speeds, being able to decelerate fast. I think that is a huge component into making your kid a good athlete, or as a kid becoming a better athlete, just having many different stimuluses on your body so that you can get good at a lot of different things. And then as you get older, you can progress and then become more specific on a sport you like more, or a sport that you're just naturally better at. Just from playing all those different sports can contribate a lot to that.
Well, on the beach, like what we did was we made up games. There was just, so you changed the modality bazillion times. Like we made up, the tippet games, and we made up run the bases. I mean, run the bases was like, we grew up on that game on the beach. So like stuff like that, you get to be creative and react. And I think that's the thing that people have missed nowadays is they train really hard. We do train them really hard. And they get to be very explosive. Their reaction times significantly slower because they don't play anymore. They're playing video games. So their little coordinations maybe or motor skills are probably a little bit better. Reaction time is slow. Yeah. One of the fourth part of my certifications is reaction time training. And guilty, I don't train it as much as I probably should based off of what I've noticed is people's reaction time. However, there's some things that are glaringly obvious that have to be corrected because of lack of play. So it gets to be more gait correction than it does reaction time because we're like, geez, there's things that are outstanding way more than your reaction time. But the reaction time is a learned response. You can get better at reaction time, dude, in your 60s. Yeah. So, like, I play this game with Chip Smith where we, you know what I mean, where you try to, like, slap each other's hands like this. And like, you play that with Chip Smith, he's so fast. It's like you cannot beat him. No one can beat him, and that's still, like, learned response to a stimulus. But your muscles maybe get a little bit slower, but your reaction time is faster. So the more you do it, the better you get at it. So on the beach, when you're playing all those games and you just get them out there and let them make up stuff and chase each other around, they're learning right there. That's a whole thing. And growing up on the beach, I'd say, you're already a fast kid anyway, but that helps tremendously. So
yeah, I'm glad you brought up run the bases because that game in general is like practically like getting into a rundown in baseball. That's literally what it is. Just jumping, dodging balls, and then just your lateral movement back and forth is what trains what we train here.
Yep. And, of course, they can't peg you, though,
no.
on the base bat.
Yeah.
But we've had so much fun watching him play the sport and just abuse the catcher. It's just he almost taunts him with the length of the lead that you take and stuff like that. And my question is talk about us. How fun having that advantage of that type of explosivity on the base path and how you can just abuse a high school or even a prep school's catcher and pitcher situation.
Yeah, that's it is an advantage and it's really fun, especially because you can hear the guys in the dugout saying, oh, you got to watch him. He's going to go. He's going to go at some point. And then 3 pickoffs later, 4, maybe even 5. It's just like I'm toying with them, like fake steal here, fake steal there, so they're getting nervous, and then all of a sudden, boom, I'm gone. Or when I like to toy with a couple catchers and say when I'm on first base, first pitch, I'll go, see if you can get me. That's what I'll do. And it's fun. It's all good fun, but like having that advantage kind of brings out the joy in stealing bases, which is a very overlooked, I feel like, stat and way to get your name out there, really.
It's a double. As soon as you get a single, it's a double.
Exactly.
So, and you've proved that because you had like 100 hits and 100 stolen bases. So, like, what are the exact numbers?
I believe stolen bases was 112. Hits, I think, was a little less, around like 105, 108.
So, more steals than hits.
Yeah.
Which is, so what happens is a double. A double's worth a lot. You're advanced down the base path no matter what. So, but yeah, so we can just do strict math, and he is to base so fast that it would take an almost perfect pitch to catch to second, absolutely perfect to pick you off, and still it's not enough. So, I mean, I think if he's ever gotten picked, it's probably because he hesitated back and then went through again. But it's just an impossible mission to get him at second right now. And then there's gonna have to put a limit on those pitch outs to the first. It's so annoying. I've seen him do it to him like 7 times, and you're like, I think Chase Petty pushed it to like 7 times at you, and you're like,
not Chase, but yeah, I believe it was Sean Duffy. He's at High Point right now. Really stud pitcher, playing EHT. 7 straight times back to first
I
base,
saw
and they
that.
steal the next pitch.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like an advantage, too, for your teammate that's hitting, because now the pitcher has to worry about you on base and the catcher has to worry about you on base. So it takes away from what they're trying to do. It can be an advantage to the hitters even that are, your teammates that are up to bat.
Yeah, I've seen the people when CJ gets on the base, everyone stands up. Like, everyone's just there, like, standing up in the back. The kids are running up to see him run and everything like that. We'll play his games in the TVs in the gym, and everyone's watching him. Like, as soon as he gets on base, we're like, here we go.
He's going.
I mean, we were trying to work out like some kind of NLI deal with him so that he could, every time he steals, we pay him something. Unfortunately, that's illegal, and we definitely cannot do that. So I looked into it a little bit more. That's totally illegal. But it was what I was like, oh man, this would be fun, man. This would be a really cool thing to to do for him. But that definitely was illegal. But yeah, that's my what I kind of already knew. But I like to see the smile on his face talk about when that advantage that he has. So Josh has another one.
Yeah, I mean, it ties in perfectly. We know why this training works, but from the outside looking in, if you're a baseball player or a football player or you play volleyball or whatever sport it might be, you can look at our training and be like, well, why are you training so much lateral bounds? Why are you guys on ramps going side to side? Why are you doing broad jumps? How does vertical leap going to help me be a better baseball player? How is running at just a 10? You're supposed to run a 60 when you go to a combine test as baseball. So how do things that we do, help you, or how do you feel they really give you an advantage in game?
Yeah, I feel like it's all translation to the game. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think about it, you have to be able to move, especially in baseball. I mean, there's not a lot of vertical. Yeah, maybe not a lot of displacement forward. But laterally, being able to explode laterally, especially to position I play, whether it's in center, it's in short, or any middle infield position, I have to be able to displace myself extremely quickly to get to a ball that's deep in the hole, deep up the middle, or whether I'm charging a play, and that's when the acceleration comes in, that first step that we always train. Yeah. That first step, super quick, I can get to the ball faster than most people can. Yeah. And it just makes things so much easier.
Definitely.
We're trying to talk about defensively. You have this effective range bubble where you'll see, like, if you pretend like it's an actual imaginary bubble, and if you could play everything within that bubble, how do you get better at defensively? You expand the bubble. You have to get better. So that's what we try to do, is expand people's effective range bubble. And CJ is huge. I mean, he's got an immense and just because he's under 5'10", he can still almost jump 40 inches on his vertical leap. That is not a disadvantage for him anymore. You know what I mean? So his range is that of a very large person. Sometimes you call it catch radius in football, but effective range radius in baseball is insane. So it does not have an effect on him defensively at all. But that is an awesome statistic. Those metrics that we have on you are clear as day. I mean, you're going to be a huge thing. Your range is so big that a ball shouldn't get into your territory without you playing it, unless it's like perfectly hit. And and if everyone had a range that size, nothing would you'd get nothing through. Unfortunately, I think you not only have an advantage athletically, but by the other players not having nearly the athleticism that you have. It's like night and day. When we see baseball players and then you see a C.J Egrie, you're seeing an athlete that has those skills. Sometimes it's a very skilled person that unfortunately has to run the base path, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that is where you just own it, Some of these great athletes that are playing baseball, Mike Trout, Ichiro, Suzuki, like some of these guys are insane at Bo Jackson. And I'm not even quick. I'm not exaggerating. He has that type of explosion to the base. Like, it's just that type of explosion to the base. So, but yeah, I'll take the next question. So, my question is, if you were looking back, go just look back at your high school career, and what would you do different?
Wow. What do I do different? I'm a big believer in that everything happens for a reason and that there's a plan no matter what. I try not to look too much about the past, because where I am today is where I want to be. yes, there are like regrets here and there, but I mean, we talked about injuries earlier. Like, yeah, there's some things but there's not much I could really do to control those injuries. Like, there was nothing that led up to me getting injured that I could have stopped. But as far as high school career, maybe run track. I don't know. Run track or be more athletic. I don't know. Something to always keep me moving because I can't stop. And that's what I love to do.
I mean, I'll put my stamp of approval on exactly what he's saying. There is not a repetition that he doesn't go at 100%. Now, when you train at the place, we know there's some rules. Everything you do is 100% effort. You don't walk in and pace not one single thing do you get to pace. It's at 100%. We measure your 100%. We add tension and we do the math, and then you have to hit that number, right? And CJ, even when we put tension on him, he wants his old number. He wants the number that, like, he just is that intense, and it's worked tremendously. So, I really, in the future, that is why you will be great at not just baseball, but everything that you do. If you put that type of effort and attention to detail, is what you'll learn as you get older and you get into like the real world and stuff like that outside of sports. Attention to detail is where you set yourself apart. This is this studio, for example. Do we need to do this much? No. But why are we going to do anything?
Look at this place. It's great.
Why are we going to do anything that wasn't going to be awesome? So we just said, darn it, we're gonna go nuts with it. And then those little things that attention to detail are going to set us apart. And it sets you apart in everything that you do. I know you had another good question too.
I was just going to lead into. I mean, just off of that. We're in the world of what's the fast result? Like, how in 6 weeks can I go from a completely non-athletic person to elite numbers? And I just would like you to touch on, you're going into college right now, you're still very young, and you're able to hit elite level numbers at pro standards. You know what I mean? In terms of speed, explosiveness, combine numbers, everything. And I just want you to talk about how much work you put in and how much work you're continuing to put in to get better on those numbers.
Yeah, Dave, you touched on it. Hit the nail on the head. Anything, whether it's sports, whether it's life, you have to do it at 100%. Not just to succeed and see yourself grow, but just to go in and so there's not that voice in your head saying, oh, what could I have done better?
Yeah.
Now, if you just do it at 100%, there is no feeling that way. Now, in terms of sports, it's every day. It's an obsession. Quoting Adam Sandler from his from the new, I forget what it's called though. I'm not gonna lie to you, but he said it has to be obsession.
Yeah.
You have to be obsessed and in love, because there are 40 other guys out there that are not as talented as you.
Yeah.
But they are obsessed with this. They love this game, and that's the mentality you have to have. And it starts with your mentality, and then it comes into work ethic. And I just bring that every single day into no matter whether I'm here, whether I'm out on the field.
Yep.
Everything has to be done at 100%, or else me personally, I will never be satisfied. And you know this. That I'll beat myself up. That I didn't give it my all that one. Let's do it again, again and again and again.
Sometimes we have to push him out of the facility.
I
we have to get him. You got to leave now. We got another group coming in. He's like,
find a spot. I'll be there.
2 weeks ago, I think 2-3 weeks ago, we're running the flying tens, and Dylan just hits a high miles per hour, and you're like, oh, I gotta hit it. Your hamstring's hurting. All of a sudden, you run one, pop the hamstring, and now you're even more mad. So you go in there, you're like, I'm gonna hit a crazy vertical leap, and then you make it worse. But then you come back, a couple of days later, healed up from it, and then run your fastest time.
That's a really funny story, because I said to myself I was running 19:11. That was my PR from there, and I beat it. I think I got up to 19:3 or something like that, and I was like, pulled my hamstring. I was telling my mom this. I'm gonna come back that next week. I'm gonna hit 21 miles an hour. I swear to you, I'm going to, no matter what. It's happened before.
I don't know how he runs injured great. He just adjusts to it and uses the other hamstring muscle. I don't know how he does it.
Hamstring takes it over.
Yeah, pull your hamstring, kids, and you'll run faster. But yeah, just came back. It was like, yeah, I'm going to put in double time now. Got to get faster.
Yeah.
And then ran 20.24, was it?
Yeah,
insane. Highest we've seen. And that's with other professional athletes in the building, doing it. So,
and that was with just a 10-yard lead up. That wasn't a 30-yard lead up in the top speed. That was a 10-yard flying start into 10 more, the 10-yard split there in the 20.2 miles an hour. I forget what it came out to, but it's like 1 second. You did it in about a
101.
second. 101, yeah, 101. So
yeah, that's nuts to do that with that. But that's how we do it. Now, to be honest, I was not a world-class sprinter either. I ran like you. I wanted to get to my highest miles per hour as fast as I possibly could, even though, like, say, someone like Dylan came around, he ran 20, but you've been at 20 for 10 yards. He got to 20 at the end. Or like you're pulling a score like that. So you're getting in at a highest miles per hour so early that it's too far. It's too late for unless you're running a track race that's so long, like that's over 100 yards or whatever. You're gone. So that's what we train our athletes to do, is to be powerful within short range. Don't worry about the late gears. We'll take care of that online, but for us to say speed maintenance, it's just lifting your knees and recovering your hamstring. So that's a little bit of conditioning. But if you can get out there, and if I could probably top out about 24.9 miles per hour. World-class sprinters hit about 27 miles per hour. This is late. This is at like 36 meters or 40 yards. So, I could hit that, but I would hit it really early. I would run it, and then, so what? If I'm so far out ahead that they could catch me late, but the 40-yard dash or the 60 was over. It was already done.
I was going to say, I mean, it's you have, in my opinion, in almost every sport outside of track where you have a long amount of time to build up speed in a straight line, being an accelerator is much more dangerous than being a top speed guy. And you can see that just Tyreek Hill is obviously very, very fast, but he's an accelerator. He's not a top speed guy. He's not a guy who's going to open his stride and continue to maintain and hit those 25, 26 miles an hour. I think he probably was measured at 21 or 22 in the NFL.
He's never been the fastest guy in the league.
Yeah, he's never been.
At the miles per hour point, but he is accelerates the fastest,
Exactly.
And he's the most elusive.
I mean, and you accelerate 10, 15, 20 times a game in competition, and how often do you really hit top speed? Maybe 3, at the most 4. So I just think being an accelerator and training that is so helpful and is to the advantage of the athlete, much more than training top speed. Well,
CJ's that product of that type of exact thing since he's a kid. It's manifesting itself. He doesn't have to pay for college now because of it. Yeah, he put in a lot of work. And I think you said it. You were saying it's not 6 weeks. It's not 12 weeks. We'll do 12 weeks, and we're going to show you a great result. About 1.8% per week is what we kind of average on an increase. However, he's been doing it for decades. He's been doing it for so long, and then he goes even further. He goes and obsesses over keeping the scores that high. And that's the thing. It's not fast. It's not a quick fix. It's something that you do have to obsess over and kind of wrapping this whole thing up. You have to obsess. And if you don't listen to me. Don't listen to Josh. Listen to it coming from the kid who's doing it right now. He's got such an advantage because of the time he's put in and the obsession that he has. Every single great athlete that I've ever coached, and there's been over 4,500 of them now, they've been obsessed. Nick Williams. Nick Williams played 7 years in the NFL. Your size, right? He is obsessive. David Dudek, completely obsessive. Joe Sarnice, who else? Austin Johnson. These guys, as soon as Austin gets off a plane, he's on the phone. Coach, I got to get in those cords. Like, get me in the cords. Let's go right now. Like, I got to go. Obsessive. Complete. Dennis Seidenberg, 16 years in the NHL. Completely obsessive. Just obsesses over all of his measurements and all of his little tweaks and injuries. It's like he's just completely nuts. And I mean that in a good way. Like, it's nuts, but it's in a good way. Now, and that's in the real world, too. I was just up in a mansion in Maine for a week. And, like, the obsession of, like, a millionaire is, they're the same way. They're successful. They carry these traits. He was so obsessed with keeping sand out of the house that it was hysterical. Like, he had a backpack on like he was freaking Ghostbusters, getting sand all day long, sweeping them down the stairs 2-3 times a day, so there was no sand in the house. And I was like, yeah, that's about right. Par for the course right there.
But that's what it takes, though. Like, these guys, everyone that you mentioned, they know one thing, and they all share it. Everyone's replaceable.
Yeah.
It's the successful ones that can delay it the longest.
Yeah, makes sense.
Better said than I could have said. Actually, I just learned something, dude. So, but anyway, we're gonna wrap it up. So, on our first edition of our podcast, coming from Klemic Performance Method Studios in Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey, we're trying to put something together that has not been done in the type of depth that we are. That we're gonna talk about the subject matters that we're gonna bring up, and the stuff hopefully is gonna make a big difference for a lot of people. And you'll be exposed to some stuff that you've never seen before. You have people that are highly experienced. I've been doing this for almost 20 years now, and I have a lot of case studies, a lot of evidence, a lot of it. Okay, and there's only one person I think that has more than me. His name is Chip Smith, and I have his studies too. So we have that advantage as well. But even still, being in the room with you guys is like, this is a neat thing to do for the first time, because I think it's creating a little bit of history. I'm not saying that the podcast is a history thing. Well, we were saying it earlier. I don't think anybody else is doing it like this. No, they're not. And if they are, it's probably in LA, where it's a dime a dozen, and it's not sport performance. It's probably fitness. You know what I mean? So this is this is something that hopefully you get a lot from, and we're excited to do it. I'm so excited, but I'm really sad to see CJ go off to college, because he is like a staple in our facility, and he's like one of the pillars that hold it up.
He's a culture changer.
So, and the neat thing is, another thing I wanted to tell you was that when CJ's in the building, everyone gets better, not just him. He makes everybody better. He holds them accountable to their own standards. You know what I mean? He's like, it sets a tone a lot of times. When he's there, you don't have to go, hey, is CJ here today? Like, you never say that. You're like, whoa, it's intense in here right now. You could cut the tension with with a knife. It's here. So it's pretty wild. But anyway, so myself, Dave Klemic, Josh Holsopple, C.J Egrie. Geez, I had a blast today, guys. I love doing this, and we'll cut this up, and we'll see it on our first post. All right.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right.
All right.
Here we go.
Let's do it.
Awesome. That went